So they tell us the circle has the given equation. We're supposed to find the center and the radius. So, like with a line, we have y equals mx plus b is kind of like a go-to form. Same thing with this circle. Okay, with circles, this is like our go-to form. X minus some h, which is like a 2 or a 3 or a -3 or something like that, plus y minus some k squared, that equals some r, the radius, squared. Okay, so to find out what these are, the only way you can do it when there's an x squared term and an x, a y squared term and a y is to solve by completing the square here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do with this equation is rearrange it a bit. And look, we can rearrange on one side of the equal sign as long as we keep the sign that's to the left of our number. That was a minus 3x. So when I shifted over here, I kept it as a minus 3x. And I'm going to leave a blank here. Because if it's a blank, it's like plus 0. It doesn't change it, right? And then that plus 9, I'm also going to subtract that over to this side of the equation. Right? So to move that plus 9 to the other side, I have to subtract 9 from both sides. So what I've done is I've got an x squared, an x, and then a no x term. A y squared, a y, and then a no y term. To find out what needs to go here, actually this is going to be a fraction. That's not good. Yeah, to find out what needs to go there, the trick is to solve by completing, it's not to solve, it's to complete this square here. And to complete the square, what you do is you cut this middle number in half. So 3 divided by 2 is 3 over 2. And you can keep the negative sign if you want. But the next step is after you divide it by 2, you square it. So what needs to go in this blank is going to be 9 over 4. But if I was to just add 9 over 4 to the left side of the equation, it would be unbalanced. I have to add 9 over 4 to this side. Okay? And now if you try to factor this, it's not nice, but if you try to factor it, you need to find two numbers and multiply by 9 over 4, but add it to be -3. Well, that pair is I had to think for a second because it's a fraction. How about if we were to square root the 9 and the 4, that would be a 3 over 2. And let's check our work, okay? If this is equal to this, I should be able to multiply this parentheses and get the same thing. If you do that, you get x squared minus 3 half x minus 3 half x. So that makes -6 over 2x, which in other words is -3x. So that checks out. And then -3 halves times -3 halves makes 9 over 4. So it worked out. Usually, I don't know, like unless students are really comfortable with this, we try not to throw fractions in there. That's why this one's, I don't know, it's weird to me that students would be working on this problem so early on in creating the equation of a circle. But same thing here. What you want to do is take this middle term, cut it in half. So 6 divided by 2 makes 3, and then square it. Right? Here, I'll write this one out a little bit more than I did the last one. If you cut this in half, it makes 3, and then square it, makes 9 here. Right? And so I have to balance the equation. I added a 9 to the left side, I have to add a 9 to the right side. Okay, and we're getting closer because now, just like with the first parentheses, and with the first one, I probably shouldn't have jumped over so many. I jumped over one step there. You're going to get to see the step here. We cut this in half. We squared it. That made 9, right? So we added 9 to both sides. The whole reason we did that is because now if you factor this, it's two numbers and multiply to be +9, but added to be -6. That's y minus 3 and y minus 3. Or, in other words, it's something times itself, so it's y minus 3 squared. Okay, and then over here, -9 plus 9 makes 0, so we're left with just 9/4. Alright, so it's finally in the form of a circle, okay? I guess to really complete the form of a circle, we need to figure out what r is. So this is not a number that's being squared. If you square root the top number and the bottom number, then we can write it in terms of a square. Right? This is still 9/4, right? And now we know what r is. The radius is going to be 3/2. And then to answer their question about the center is h comma k. It's 3/2 comma 3. That's the center of our circle. So it means if we're trying to graph this, we want to go 1.5, because that's what 3/2 is. It's 1.5 on the x, and then 3 on the y. So that's the center of our circle. And since we found out it had a radius of 3/2, that means we should be able to go 3/2 to the right and put a dot, and 3/2 to the left and put a dot, 3/2 down from that center point and put a dot. So that's 1.5 in other words. 3/2, 3/2, that's 1.5. So down 1.5, up 1.5. Those are the dots that should make our graph. And the intercepts would be where it crosses an x or a y axis. Look, it does cross when we count out those dots. It crosses, so the intercept would be 0 on the x, 3 on the y.